So, this happened about 5 years ago when I moved into a cheap apartment complex just outside Bloomington, Illinois. I had just come out of a really messy relationship and needed to find a place quickly. It wasn't ideal. Cracked walls, this faint smell of old cigarettes in the hallway, and neighbors that barely made eye contact. But the rent was low. The landlord didn't ask many questions, and at the time, that was good enough for me. My unit was on the second floor, right above the laundry room. I worked late shifts at a diner downtown, so most of the time I ended up doing laundry around midnight. I liked it that way. The laundry room was quiet, just the hum of machines and the occasional drip from the ceiling pipes. No neighbors to awkwardly bump into. The first time something weird happened, I didn't even think it was weird. I had just thrown my clothes in the dryer and stepped outside for a quick smoke. When I came back in, the dryer was already running. I paused, a little confused. I was sure I hadn't pressed the button, but I figured maybe I leaned on it or it had some auto start thing I didn't notice. I shrugged it off. But the clothes weren't just starting to tumble, they were warm, like they'd been spinning for a while. The next week, I went down again around the same time. I was more careful this time, just to see. I loaded everything in, shut the door, didn't touch anything, and stood back. Nothing happened for a full minute. Then, out of nowhere, the drum started turning. The machine came to life all on its own. I stood there trying to make sense of it. There were no timers, no motion sensors, just this humming, rhythmic thump of my clothes drying without me pressing a thing. And I know that sounds minor, but there's something deeply wrong about machines starting themselves, especially when you're the only one there. Then came the hair. I was folding my clothes back in my apartment when I pulled out a sweatshirt I hadn't worn in ages. Hanging off the sleeve was this long black hair. I keep my hair short. I'm a redhead, and this wasn't mine. I thought maybe some residue from a previous load or someone else using the dryer before me. You know, shared machines, stuff happens. But that night, I found something else. Folded neatly on top of my clothes was a white undershirt. Not mine. And it was stiff with dried blood around the collar. I didn't go back down there for 2 weeks. I started hand-washing stuff in the sink, like I was staying in a motel. Socks, underwear, the basics. I even thought about using a laundromat down the block, but something kept pulling me back to that room. Like I needed to prove it was nothing, that I hadn't imagined any of it. When I finally went back, I ran into someone I'd never seen before. Thin, probably in his late 60s, wearing this faded maintenance uniform like he had been working there a long time ago. He was standing near the boiler, smoking a cigarette like he belonged. I asked if he worked there, and he gave me this slow shrug, like he wasn't even sure, said he used to be the handyman years back, and liked to stop by sometimes. Something about his tone made my skin crawl. I ended up telling him about the dryer. I don't know why. I guess I was hoping for a laugh or some explanation. Maybe he'd tell me it was just faulty wiring or a ghost story the building passed around for fun. But he didn't laugh. Not even close. He flicked ash onto the tile floor, looked me dead in the eyes, and said, "We had a guy crawl into one years ago. Said he wanted to be clean again." That sentence lodged in my brain. I asked him if he was kidding. He just turned and walked away, disappearing into the stairwell. That night I barely slept. I couldn't stop replaying his words. Wanted to be clean again. What does that even mean? Some kind of breakdown? A junkie? I tried looking it up the next day. Nothing. No news articles, no old records. The complex had changed owners a few times, so I figured any past incident just got wiped out with the paperwork. But then the smell started. Burnt fabric, sharp and sour, like someone had mixed rust and hair with melted plastic. It came through the floor vents every night around 3 a.m. Always the same time. Always from below. I checked the laundry room more than once, expecting to see a fire or a broken machine. But the room was dark, silent, cold. That's when I started hearing the thumps. Just one at a time. Then silence. Then again. Coming from inside one of the dryers. Not like a machine running, but like something shifting its weight. Like someone adjusting their position in something small and metal. I finally had enough. One night, barefoot and in pajamas, I took a flashlight and went downstairs. The lights were already off. I opened every dryer one by one, all empty, until the last one. The inside was blackened. The drum had scorched marks like it had been through a fire long ago. Around the metal rim, I saw deep scratches. Not random, deliberate, like fingernails dragging over and over in the same spot. I backed up, nearly tripped over the laundry cart, then the overhead light flicked off. I didn't hear a switch. Didn't hear a breaker snap, just total darkness. I froze. My flashlight beam shook as I raised it. I turned back toward the dryer. Inside the drum, on the glass door, was a handprint. Fresh, smudged, from the inside. The dryer door creaked. Not opened, just a slow groan of movement. I ran. Twisted my ankle on the stairs, but kept going. Got to my apartment, locked both locks, and sat by the door with a kitchen knife in my hand until daylight broke. I moved out 2 weeks later. When I told the landlord I was breaking lease, he didn't argue. He just nodded like he'd heard it before. I never looked back. I don't know what really happened to that man. I don't know if the old maintenance guy was even real. Maybe someone made him up. Maybe I imagined all of it. But even now, in a different city, different apartment, in the middle of the night, I hear it again. That metal thump.